It's like getting some dancers, b-boys slash dancers from the scene, from the DMV or Baltimore specifically, kind of representing both, together to just talk a little bit about like things like their crews, their history, but also what makes the DMV style what it is, or what that means to them. So not too long, but sort of delving into a little bit of the localized attributes of like the dance and how that differs from other places. So I'm gonna start it out since I'm talking and looks like we're getting settled here. And so I wanna go down the line and just get, you know, each person to say their name, what crew they're from, and how long they've been dancing. So we can start with, I won't give his name away. You can say his name. Yeah.
Booda Monk. Basically been dancing since I was a baby, a child. You know, so it kind of went from like, oh, I'm sorry.
What crew?
What crew?
Yeah.
You can name them all.
DVC.
Okay. And how many, so dancing since you're a child, but like, I guess what I mean by that too is, so I get that, more like kind of involvement in the scene. Yours is a little different because you were there when that sort of started up, which we'll get into a little, but it's like what you would consider as far as like dancing, whether that means like dancing in clubs or whatever, but in a situation where you were around a bunch of other dancers, how long has that, you know, been going on?
I got one.
Check.
Yeah.
Like I said, I grew up that way. I grew up around a bunch of dancers. We all, like my family, the people in the neighborhood, other neighborhoods, we all just danced. That was like a ritual for us, you know. So it wasn't like, you know, it was just that something. It's just something that we did in the culture. So what I'm saying that it went from dancing into b-boy pop. So it never really stopped. It just kept going, and we saw things, we picked it up, and we kept on evolving from there.
Cool.
So keep in mind, I'm born in '71, so like. I would say I really got deep into dancing like late 70s, early 80s.
So we could say like 40 plus years then?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to get kind of
Yeah,
approximate numbers, just to give an idea, because I think for some people it's a little bit, you know, easier for them, you know, or just more interesting to kind of conceptualize, like they've been like, you know, someone's like, oh, I've been dancing for 3 years. Oh, I've been dancing for a year. I've been dancing for 5 years. 40 plus. And so it's like, the reason I mentioned is like, you know, Booda might know a thing or two.
Breaking, I guess we started the crew in '96. I started in '95. My introduction to dance was, like most people in that time, was party dancing. All the, you know, the WAP, the Running Man, classic old school hip hop stuff like that. I definitely wasn't, I saw breaking and Beach Street, but didn't know anything to say I learned any of it. Actually, my mentor in hip hop is right there. That's Brett Whitted. He is the guy who put me down with everything. When I first came into breaking and I saw it at the club, that would be a couple guys in Baltimore. We'll get into that in a little bit. But
Yeah, what year you think?
for me, well, I first saw them in '91, '92, and they weren't really breaking. They were doing breaking power moves, but it was mostly like freestyle dancing. But when they got to battling, you know, you could freestyle all you wanted, but if somebody hit a head spin or a 90, that's kind of what won the battle. And I would say over those next like 3 years, they just kept moving to more foundational b-boying.
Got it. Awesome. And last but not least,
Toyz, breaking for 19 years now, from Lions of Zion crew.
all right. I heard that's a pretty cool crew. And as you know, heard Shogun mention, you know, his mentor is right there. And this isn't about, I would never want to sort of get into like, we got all the OGs and only them, you know, to be on a panel. It's like, no, there's a lot of people that, you know, taught all of, you know, them, I'm sure, and maybe, you know, they're here, maybe they're not. And this was more just about kind of reaching out to some folks that I knew and folks that I know could speak on some things, but not by any means, you know, limiting it to that they were the only ones, but mostly that they kind of are representing 3 subsequent generations. And I thought that kind of hearing some of their stories, or just some of their perspective of how they got into breaking and dancing in general, would be interesting comparing one to another, because they started at these different times. And so we got 40 plus years, we got near 20, and so maybe my math was almost perfect. What do we got? 23? Yeah, 23. So more or less, like 10-year increments, we'll call it. Yeah, and just kind of it'd be interesting to hear some answers. So, Booda Monk, he mentioned, about dancing, and so Booda, like, when did you begin dancing in clubs and sort of like public spaces? I'm curious to know for each one of you, like, your dancing as it relates to dancing with other people, whether it be in community, whether it just be in a club or whatever, but around other people, when that began and where it began. Because throughout generations, people have some different starting points. Right now, someone could start in the studio, or could start by looking on the internet and looking at their nearest b-boy, breaking, popping, house, whatever practice that's going on in their area. But that kind of differs from generation to generation. So yeah, I'm curious, like, socially, especially as it regards, like, I'd say either freestyle dancing, breaking, whatever, something where you're doing it and you're kind of, show improving, not just dancing casually. Where were you first doing that socially? In what circumstance?
In my neighborhood.
Okay.
I will honestly say, like, coming up, where I grew up, we were always competitive in everything we did. So dancing, we even competed with regular dancing. Whatever the hottest dances were out, we saw it. Whether it was, we watched a lot of grown-ups, and they would show us in the neighborhood certain things. They would have parties, block parties, and they would do these dances, and us as kids, we would try to imitate these dances. Then we would have battles amongst each other in the neighborhood. Then we would even, when we party in other neighborhoods, we would battle them. So before breaking even came, we were always battle. Like I said, it was always competitive in everything. Whether, it was graffiti, whether it was dancing. Now, keep in mind, I didn't really get into DJing until later on. I did one dabble with it and I hung around people like, Reggie Reg and all them, and did rock and roll and so forth. But I would watch, I would go over to my homeboy house, Dan and Jay, who did rock and roll, and I practiced on his turntables. But let me stick with the dancing. Let's go into something else. But I really didn't get into breaking hardcore until I went to junior high school, back when we called it junior high school.
That's middle school.
Yeah. And I went to one of the worst junior high schools in Baltimore, was Garrison Junior High. And within that, it was a lot of nasty b-boys within the school. Very intimidating. So it was battles every day, inside and outside, in alleys everywhere. So when it comes to dancing, we have block parties. We would go to malls, like Mondawmin Mall, where it was music liberated, and they'd be blasting the music through the mall, and we would dance outside the mall. Security mall. We would walk from, I don't know if y'all know where like Forest Park, like Garrison, Liberty Heights is. We would walk from there all the way out to Security Mall. And it was like it was crews out in the county, Hurley Square, and then people from Poplar Grove would come out to security. They had the movie theater was on the inside. Fun and Games was like across from it, and we would battle in that area.
That's dope. That's cool. Yeah, and so Shogun.
So mine is, I can remember every single point that inspired me for b-boying or breaking. So I never considered myself a dancer. I was a basketball player. Before that, skateboarding, but definitely loved hip hop. So I would think when I was first coming up, Baltimore hip hop, the main spots, it was all rap or MCing, and most of those spots in the city, I didn't feel like I could go to. it was just sketchy spots, right? I wasn't official enough, didn't have a reputation, so I was like, we went to other type of clubs, and there wasn't a lot of hip hop. The club in DC, the Edge, the thing was called Pollen. They had resident b-boys there. It was Natural Elements crew first. Then they were one crew, but when they split, it was Lions of Zion and Natural Elements were the resident b-boys there. And I remember going there and seeing these cats, and I was like, holy shit, it is real. And they were killing it. They had a spot inside that was more like techno-y, like house, but on the outside at that club, they did have hip hop. And it was a great spot because the crowd was kind of what the crowd is now, very mixed. And it was very relaxed, and it's where I wanted to be. So I see that there. Come back to Baltimore. There's only really two guys that I used to see in the places that I went, was like the Paradox. Then one of the other clubs was Orpheus, but you had Dana and Avery. They were the equivalent to Brent and Josh and Sonny and, you know, these guys. It always seemed like they ran in pairs. But no doubt Dana and Avery were the guys that really started breaking hard in these clubs that I was going to. So I came back to my man Brent and I was like, look dog, you were right. It's coming back. I didn't believe you. I said, you better learn how to do the running, man. And he's like, nah, man. So I went to him. He put me down with my foundation. And then the rest it was only a club scene. There were no events like this. There were no breaking. It was clubs. You had to find the clubs where the dancers were. And that was trial and error too. It's not like there was Facebook or somebody telling you got a flyer and you were like, damn, I hope this is dope, you know? And then you just went. Everything was a gamble. But when you saw people there, you went in because you might not get that again. So like, it's kind of like a cooler thing, man, you know, than knowing everything off the bat. Who's gonna be there? What dancers are gonna show up? You just went in to have fun, and then, you know, you saw some cats and you battled and got it in. The one thing that breaking gave to me, right, you would see all these different club dancers, house dancers, but I was like, I felt like I was learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was like, if I learn this shit, I can smoke all of them. They don't have none of this stuff. So I just felt like it was the rawest form of hip hop at the time. Breaking has been my love from the first time I saw it till now. And the last spot that I can touch on that really turned was Rocksteady 20th anniversary. When I went to that, there was no doubt I was doing this the rest of my life.
That's what's up. And actually, I just want to piggyback on that real quick because I think it's super interesting before we get to Toyz. We're not going to forget about you, buddy. But I'm curious because you mentioned, you know, both of you mentioned like you're dancing a lot in clubs and that's like the primary place where you were introduced to it and that you were doing it. So how do you think personally that affected your style, like, and the way that you dance? So like someone who, you know, depending on where you learn something from, studio, YouTube, you know, going to local practices, all those are different ways of learning this dance that we're doing. We're all doing the same dance, but it's those different ways of learning it, and I feel like that can drastically affect the style that you're doing. So I'm curious for you two real quick, and then when we get to Toyz about his introduction, you know, to breaking as well. But how do you think that affected your style when you're only able to dance like in a club?
Yes, you could see a huge difference between my crew and then the next generation of crews coming up, which are probably like Lab Rats, ATD, Fusion, these guys right here. They didn't have a club atmosphere because they were younger. So they put so much time and effort into like power moves, which, you know, my crew was mainly you're dancing and you can't practice on the side in the club. You look like a dummy. You know, you're in a cypher to get down and that's it. So like your style comes from music, and we like Baltimore club music. We like that old school house, that real hip hop stuff, and you can just see when that music is playing and you see my crew dance, it just makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And I've seen, if y'all haven't seen that, it's definitely one of, you know, my favorite things to watch in Baltimore is all DVC when they get down to, you know, Baltimore club music or house music. Like, you can see that there's roots there that are more, you know, than just breaking and more than just having learned it from someone randomly. It's like a part of the culture of the city that is in them. And so Buddha, same thing. How would you say, like, within the realm of, like, we're talking about breaking now, your experience breaking, but how did doing it in the clubs and mostly, maybe just doing it in the clubs, how do you think that affected your style or, like, the influence of your style?
Be sexy.
Man, it's like, only thing I can just say is originality. That's it. Back then everybody wanted to be different, and you wanted to be different from that person and do something more intense, more creative than the next. So, and then you watch that person do that, you want to top that with your originality. You better not look like him. You know what I'm saying? So you try your best not to look like the next person. Whereas today is.
So don't you think like clothes and that style played a big
Oh,
part?
definitely. Yeah, definitely. It was because it was all together in one. Now it's chopped up. Now back then it was the whole culture.
That's what's up. Yeah, it's like, I just really like getting that perspective. And I kind of know some, but then I always learn new things too. But I feel like that's the sort of thing that's just, food for thought. Just things to kind of like bounce around in your head. And straight up, make it something where, if you are younger, just because that's not how maybe I came up or a lot of us came up, that's okay. There's still clubs around, there's still people that get down, and you can still participate in that. It's not the only way to get to breaking, but the point is, like, it's a really valuable and cool thing to experience. And when you do that, and when you really feel a vibe in a club, and it's on some other, energy, you start to understand, like, what these guys are talking about. So just like on a personal note, I would highly suggest that, just try that, see if you can get out to somewhere. If you're not old enough, that's cool, you can wait a little while. We all have to wait at a point in our lives, or not, especially you. But like,
Check it out though. Also too, you gotta keep in mind that back then it was neighborhoods. You feel what I'm saying? You had Park Heights, Emerson Avenue. Each neighborhood had their own style. And they brought that when they came to battle or step two. You had people back then that would knock on your door. They knocked on my door. They came knocking on my door, went to battle. We came to their neighborhood. And the thing is, a lot of people, a lot of them had linoleum, they had their cardboards. So even when we battled them at nighttime, we'd go steal it. I mean, it was hate, it was bad, you know what I'm saying? But they'd take ours, we'd go take theirs, and we'll take it all the way across town.
Yeah, that's wild. Different thing.
But it makes sense that, like even the 90s B-boys, like the Cali style was a separate style. The New York style was a separate style. The only one that really kind of combined a lot of the two was like the Florida guys. Baltimore was like small, but we already spoke on that field. Texas, because we couldn't see each other every single second of the day. So you had these down times and periods where it was just you vibing off your own people, and you got to develop an original style. And it was better.
Yeah. I try to look forward a little bit. I feel like it can always be. You can have your own version of better. Like the better right now looks like. No, for real, it's like the better right now looks like we have so much access to the information to be able to learn crazy moves, and you'll see younger kids learning the crazy moves like way quicker, and that's really inspiring. And they're just at a physical level that's like kind of on it's just the next level. But at the same time, yeah, there's a lot to be, a lot to think about and a lot to be taken in just from what you guys are saying. Because yeah, those are big. The originality portions, things like that, are just super. They were a big part of your generation because of how you came up. And again, just letting people know that even at least can help them to sort of have in their mind to think about maybe what ways they can do their own work, their own creative work, and not just watch someone else. Real quick, because I haven't heard from this guy in a second. Toyz, how you began, or the first place that you saw breaking. So this is going to be fun because hopefully it'll be a little bit different answer. I think it is. But like, how did you come into breaking? What was like the first social situations where you were dancing with other, dancers with other b-boys?
So, yeah, the way I got into breaking is very, very different from Booda and Shogun, because I grew up in the suburbs. Like, I'm from Silver Spring, and so the way I got into breaking was, oddly enough, linked with skateboarding. And breaking has a very strong relationship with the skating culture as well, especially on the West Coast, but like, here too, yeah. But like, me and my older brother were trying to get into skating, and then we got a hold of this VHS tape. I don't even remember what it was, but like there was this little small segment at the end of it where it was like a skate park or something, and there was like b-boys getting down. I think there was like footage of Style Elements or something like that.
It might be a tribal video.
It might have been a tribal video, and then yeah, actually it probably was a tribal video. That makes a lot more sense. And then me and my brother were like, all right, well, skating's cool, but like, what was that at the end? We're like, all right, so screw skating. So then we went back to the mall where we got this VHS tape. It was like a cool little skate shop. Might have been like a tribal like vendor store, something to that effect. And then we bought like a VHS tape that was strictly all about breaking, which I think was Freestyle Session 3. It was like the first VHS tape that we got hold of. And then we fell in love with that, and then like the very next week, we went back, and with whatever like loose change we had, we bought the next VHS tape, which was B-Boy Summit '99. And so we didn't really, like, I didn't get into breaking through like other people like in the neighborhood or anything like that with you guys. I learned it through VHS tape. But like, it worked out beautifully for me because it was right around the time when the interwebs was developing. And like some of the first earliest forms of like online chat groups and forums came up around that time, which was in like 2000. So like right around the time that we first found these VHS tapes, we went on the internet, interwebs, as I like to call it, and then we found this. This is a pretty typical name, really. It was breakdance.com.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was like an all yellow page and like,
Yo,
it was terrible.
It was the worst looking
site.
website you could ever see. It was like bad HTML.
Yeah.
And then the thing was too, like,
56K modem.
So I'm of that same generation where, yeah, like I actually had a friend of my brother's who was B-boy, and he let me borrow a tape and whatever, so I happened to see that, but also the skate videos, I would see them at the end of it. But yeah, breakdance.com, if you don't know, we were literally typing on the name of a move, which was probably wrong too. Like later I realized that a lot of the names were like super corny, and the actual name, like if you said that name to a New York head, they'd be like, what are you talking about, man? Like, this is
The buckler.
yeah, some crazy. But anyway, it was literally step by step, written out instructions for how to do a move. Put your left hand to the right side of your body near your hip, turn clockwise into, and this is like for you doing a CC or something.
It was like 20 steps for like a CC, and then like only 5 steps for like a head spin. It's like,
But it's wild because like some of us, were really interested and really wanted to learn it, but like we just had so little resources if we were in the suburbs, which I was as well, and we were trying to like, get instructions off the site. So I just thought it was kind of funny because now YouTube is just like, how to master b-boying in 20 tutorials. Here it is, and show you everything all perfect and the time in between for you to practice and everything. So,
but then through that site we found this forum, and then we found out about some public practice spots, which is how we found out about College Park practices back when it was like at Franker, where it used to be like little mini jams, like everyone used to go there. And then but my main like personal contact with other like actual b-boys in person was DuPont Circle, which is where I met. I mean, a lot of them don't really break anymore, but I met like one of my main mentors, LT, there. I think like Evil Ben used to go there once in a while. But there were some other cats, like there's this dude named Danilo that went, Randolph. You remember Randolph?
I know both of them.
Yo, right? And then this other dude that I forget his name, we just gave him a nickname because he was in the military, and for some reason we called him Panama Jack. And then that's I don't even remember his real name. That's just I don't know how that nickname developed, but anyways, that was like the first time me, my brother, and my brother's high school friends, like that was the first time we met other like actual b-boys. Some of them were older. Ryan, remember Ryan? And then from there they told us about these other things, and then
And that actually,
that was my introduction to like the actual scene was through DuPont Circle.
So like DuPont Circle, starting, you know, with your brother dancing, but then DuPont Circle and then College Park practices. And a lot of us like those, if that wasn't yours, I was just like, oh, I don't need that. Sorry. Oh, it's an OG on the line. Hold on. Put him onto the mic. No, I'm just kidding. Wait, is it really? Oh, okay. So yeah, that was leading me to the next question, which was, what was your first major B-boy, B-girl event here in Maryland that you went to? So the first event that you remember going to that like maybe it was just like a big group of people that were all